We're so excited to be working with NGen to hear about some of the innovative projects happening within NGen's advanced manufacturing supercluster. Today, we're going to hear from one of these groundbreaking projects from Mosaic. I'm thrilled to welcome co-founder and CEO of Mosaic Manufacturing, Mitch Debora. Welcome, Mitch. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So to begin, we would like to hear more about Mosaic Manufacturing and what you do as a CEO of this company.
For sure, for sure. So, Mosaic Manufacturing, we're a 3D printing company focused on expanding the range of the useful objects that can be 3D printing and can be 3D printed, and the scale at which they can be printed. We actually got started right out of school. Me and my co-founders, we went to Queen's University, and when we graduated, we saw this opportunity to again expand the range of what 3D printers can make, and so we built this product called Palette. In the past 7 years, we've sold tens of thousands of these units around the world, and Palette was able to upgrade 3D printers to print in color. And so lots more we can go into there, but that was an awesome, awesome opportunity. We got to meet a ton of amazing businesses and customers around the world, and we learned about some of their challenges with scaling 3D printing to make hundreds or thousands of things. And so more recently, we have launched a new ecosystem of products that's really focused on achieving that scale, really solving the problem of trying to print thousands or even millions of parts right here at home and using 3D printing.
That was an awesome summary of the entire, I'm sure, years of long journey. But branching off of that, perhaps you can talk more about how you got involved with NGen and the Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster here in Canada.
Absolutely. And in answering that, I'll also answer the part about what I do as a CEO. And so the truth is, it changes every day. You know, I often like to think title isn't super important. It's more important that you kind of know what you work on. And so me and my co-founders and the full team, we're really laser focused on achieving those goals of building those products to solve the problems I shared. And so for me, the way that I can contribute there is in a few ways. One, I try and really help out with the strategy. Me and all my co-founders do that, trying to make sure that everyone understands what they're doing and why and where we're driving as a company. Um, in a business, if you're really well aligned and have that organization focused in a direction, it's amazing what can happen. I actually am still involved with the technical side as well. So I work with a lot of our engineers, trying to improve practices and make sure that we build the best products. And then I do some work on the business side as well, in financing and making sure that we have what we need to grow and be able to do what we do every day. And that's how I met NGen. NGen is an amazing organization, and they exist, in my understanding, at least in my words, they exist to help manufacturing thrive in Canada. And they do that in a bunch of ways. But one of the ways that they do that is that they help to fund projects related to advanced manufacturing. And so with some of the products we build, there's a really good fit. And I got to work with the NGen team, and they've been acting as effectively an investor of ours in more ways than one to help us achieve our goals. And so that's how I got to know NGen as kind of an investor in our projects. And now we work together in a variety of ways.
Right, that's awesome. And honestly, back to what you said about the CEO role, you're kind of in everything, and then I know that can get kind of difficult to know where to step your foot in, or where to or how to balance everything even. So that's awesome that you're able to manage all that, and I'm sure you're learning along the way as well. But that's awesome. So I know you mentioned that you went to Queen's University with your colleagues. So taking a few steps back, I understand that you were a student in the Faculty of Engineering and Applied Sciences at Queen's University. So why did you decide to be an entrepreneur rather than solely an engineer?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And, before even answering that, I want to establish that there is nothing super special about me that led to me doing this and becoming an entrepreneur. I remember, like you, being in grade 12, right? That's what you said, and being excited about engineering and science. And so I went into engineering, and I studied as hard as I could, and I tried to build my skills. And truth be told, I worked some summer jobs, some internships. And so when I was going to graduate, I had a job lined up. I worked as hard as I could one of those summers, and they said, when you graduate, we'd love to hire you. And I was excited for that path. And I think that a lot of people, in technical fields could relate. But Queens had this really special program that they call the DDQIC. And what they did is they gave us a sandbox. They gave us a summer. They gave us a little bit of money. They gave us an office. They surrounded us by brilliant people. And they said, go try something. Just give it a shot. You're going to learn a lot along the way. And so I think all that I did that was maybe the decision point was to say, yeah, you know what? I will not get that stable job for 4 months so I can do this summer program because I do believe in accelerated professional growth and development. And I think that if I can do that, this type of program, it kind of scares me. It might really help me learn faster. So I did that for the summer and met some amazing people, and we ended up building what became Mosaic. And at the time, last point I want to make here is about why did I decide to actually keep going forward with it? So that summer we built a prototype, we built out a business model, all these terms I'd never even used before, but I learned them as fast as I could and was surrounded by people who understood them better than I did. And at the end of the summer, we ended up getting some funding and we said, okay, so we know that we can all go get, hopefully regular jobs, but what if we keep going with this? We have a little bit of money to pay ourselves salary. We have an office. We think that there's a really awesome opportunity to have a good impact on the world with this product. What if we go for 4 more months? And so we did. And then we went for 4 more months and 4 more months. And we kept on asking that question, what do we have to lose? And don't get me wrong, everyone's in a different situation. If you're in grade 12, if you've decided that you want to go to college or university, then there's a lot to lose to not do that. But for us, we had just graduated and we were in a position where we saved up some money from summers and we were able to give it a shot for a little bit of time. And so I really want to say that it was thanks to Queens having this program and maybe me having a personality that said, yeah, that seems scary, let's try it. But it was not that I grew up being like, I want to be a founder, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I want to dispel that to make sure that that you and anyone who listens to this understands that anyone can be an entrepreneur. It's maybe more of an attitude than it is something that you need to be training for since you were like 5, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the most important things that you touched on is like it's that self-reflection that you did with your values and yes, making this choice would have been super scary and stuff, but it's also super exciting. And I think that excitement kind of outweighed the risks and stuff and every single time, and which is awesome to hear. And it's awesome that you took that step with your colleagues and it succeeded really well actually. So that's amazing. And kind of going along that journey, and I'm sure like with any other new company, there has been a lot of hard work involved in building up Mosaic Manufacturing. So what kinds of challenges did you face while starting Mosaic Manufacturing, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So, they say a startup is like a roller coaster. There's lots of exciting stuff, but there's also lots of really big challenges. And I think that we faced all of the common ones, how do you get financing to build the business? How do you get a product built to get a customer to be excited so that you can then validate the market? And if it's a physical product like we built, it takes a long time. How do you hire great employees? There's so many challenges, but the one thing that I think linked all of it was an attitude that we had to say something we actually learned at Queens. It's a simple expression. You know what you know what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And it's those latter two that I think are really important to focus on. And I think if you try and maintain humility and realize you don't need to know everything, you just need to be able to surround yourself by resources and people who can help you get there. And so one thing that I think we did to overcome all those challenges was, just be really honest and say to people in our network, like, we know that you're really good at finance. We know you're really good at engineering. We're just a small team right here in Toronto. Like, would you be willing to do a 20-minute call? We'd really appreciate it. And we were blown away with how generous people were, professors, friends, colleagues, you name it. And by doing that, we were able to get expert time to kind of help us and overcome whether they be technical challenges, business challenges. And on that last part of not knowing what you don't know, that's the scary one, right? Because if you knew what it was, it wouldn't be there. So um, a really important question to ask when you work with other people is to just say, like, if you were me, like, what don't I know yet? What don't I see? If you've done this before, what might we run into? And having an open mind, not being like, oh, I know everything, but assuming you actually really don't. And I think there's 1,000 examples I can think of where having these types of conversations helped us avoid major problems and grow much faster.
Yeah, and I think that especially resonates with any like first year students or even grade 12 students because you're going to university, you're going to try to find like part-time jobs or like co-op terms, and a lot of us don't really have a lot of experience or actual like work experience, and that's a very scary thing. But I think that what you said, and I'm not going to try to reiterate because I'm going to butcher it, but it does definitely like help how you don't need to know everything just to put yourself out there and get started. And there's a lot of people there to help you. So that's really reassuring to hear, actually. And this is kind of moving on, but like looking more into what Mosaic Manufacturing does. What made you choose 3D printing as an area of focus for your business?
Yeah. So really, really simple story. And I think there's actually an important message behind this. So I was passionate about 3D printing. When I was in second year at school, they showed a slide about a 3D printer. I was really curious. So I Googled it and I saw that, for $500 to $1,000, you could buy one. And I thought, I need to invest in this. So I tried to work, I made it, I saved up some money, bought one, used it, saw how powerful it would be, and I was really blown away that students didn't have access to these, at least at the time. So I started a business, which really just meant making like a Wix website, marketing the services. If you need something 3D printed, I'll print it for you. Ended up going really well, and I was doing jobs for people in the community, people in the US, professors, businesses. And I noticed this trend that people were underwhelmed with what was coming out of the printer, and one of the big reasons was that they expected it to be multicolor or multi-material. And so, at the time, I didn't think much of that. I just thought like, huh, yeah, I'm sure the technology will get better. And then flash forward, like I told you, we joined that summer program. And what I loved about that program is they didn't want you to come in with an idea. They wanted you to come in with like real world experience of your life. And they asked you, what problems are you aware of? And so I told my group about that problem. People want things, my printer can't make it, I really can't buy a printer that can do it. What if we try and solve that problem? And that was the seed of what got us excited about building it. And so one thing I see with people who want to start businesses, sometimes they spend so much energy trying to find problems. But there's nothing nicer than when you can think about things you've experienced, whether it be at a summer co-op or a business you tried to start or with an aunt or an uncle. Problems are all around us. Not all of them mean good businesses, but there's something really nice about naturally stumbling upon something. And then, don't get me wrong, it was never obvious we would actually be able to solve it, but it led to a really good opportunity to try.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the most challenging parts to this entire process is finding that idea, finding that spark and sustaining that spark over all these years, I think. So that's awesome that you were able to come like I didn't even realize before researching about Mosaic that they're like that 3D printing could be viewed so differently and at such a local scale because it's in Canada too, right? Now you kind of talked about this already, but I'd say like 3D printing and and the online like computer aided design software has been around for like quite a while now, or like a couple of years at least, and these technologies are continuing to rapidly advance. So what do you think the future of 3D printing could look like? And perhaps you can talk about how you believe that 3D printing will be applied in manufacturing and other sectors.
Absolutely. So to understand where the future is going, it's important to maybe quickly summarize where we are today. And it's really different than where it was 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Today, it's very, very common for schools, businesses in technical fields, architecture firms, engineering firms, to all have at least one 3D printer. And that's awesome because 10 years ago, that was not the case. And those printers dominantly are being used for prototyping. And that comes from the fact that a 3D printer, it can make complex geometries overnight. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it's much faster than getting someone else to make it for you somewhere else, basically, whether it be in another country or another business. So prototyping, when you need to make a version of something for testing, it's been adopted really well there. But traditionally, and this starts to get into where we see the future going, there's a big pent up demand to use 3D printing for more than prototyping. When we make products today, whether it be the watch of my, the band of my Apple Watch or a prototype for a new IoT device, when we want to get that made, we face this really big problem as engineers or businesses. You can get 20,000 made, and it'll be a really good price. But if you want to get like 500 made, it's almost impossible. It's so expensive. And 3D printing has long been viewed as the answer to that. Because with 3D printers, you can make 500, especially if you buy a bunch of printers and have them all printing at the same time. And so we think that's the seed of the answer. We think that 3D printing is going to be scaled up to be used for higher volumes in manufacturing. The problem is that's much easier said than done. When you take a bunch of 3D printers and put them on shelves in a factory, there's a lot of parts of it that are not scalable. You need skilled people to be constantly there 24/7 monitoring the printers. There's about 40 steps that need to be done for every print to start to finish from monitoring. It's very laborious and error prone. So, we think that a new wave of technology is going to be needed, a new layer of automation, so that the parts coming off these printers can be scaled up drastically with the costs coming down so that it can be viably used for manufacturing. So in short, I think there's a ton of demand for 3D printers to be used in manufacturing, but the printers of today are not ready. And so as we see new printing technologies come out, including, of course, what we work on, we think that we're going to see a big shift. Prototyping will become a small part of the market, and 3D printing and manufacturing will become a much larger part.
Honestly, I'm so excited, especially going into the engineering field myself. Like we have like thousands of engineers coming into university every single year. We're gonna bring that technology to life, and I'm sure of it. But moving on to something a little more, I guess, personal, we ask a lot of the guests on this podcast, was there a pivotal moment in your career that has been super memorable for you, and what makes it so memorable?
Yeah, for sure. Thank goodness there's been a ton. And this one might be a bit cliche, but what I would normally have said in the past was we launched a Kickstarter campaign, and after about 2 and a bit years into the business, someone put $1, like they spent the first dollar, and in fact they spent, I think it was $230,000, and so it became incredibly real. People are paying money, and you start to feel this imposter syndrome. It's like, can we really do this, right? And this was many years ago. But I think what that led to a couple of years later was the first time that we shipped a product we were proud of. And for me, that was a huge moment, seeing somebody in South Korea receive their pallet, open it up and post, wow, I'm like, this is amazing, this change. Here was all the problems I was having. Now I don't. Look what I made with it. That's that for me. And I think a lot of our team are really inspired by not just the process of building something, but remembering that there's a purpose to it and there's an impact that it has, and actually seeing that manifest itself with a customer.
Yeah, that sounds super touching actually. And I'm sure you've like saw more of those in the upcoming years, and every single one of them has been memorable to say the least and super inspiring and motivating. So that's awesome. And kind of moving on again. So Mosaic Manufacturing, and I'm sure yourself personally and professionally as well, have grown quite a lot already through this journey. So I'm curious to see, where do you see yourself and Mosaic Manufacturing in the next 10 years?
Yeah, so I'm very much driven by, like I said before, putting myself in new environments to learn and grow and taking on new challenges. And for me, Mosaic is a vehicle for that, because every 6 months I'm doing something different and something that seemed scary 6 months ago. So I love this journey, and I want to really keep going along this road. You just asked about the future of 3D printing, and at Mosaic, we're very much committed to making that a reality. And so, you know, maybe not even 10 years, maybe even 5 years from now, I truly believe that success will mean that Amazon will be using our systems in their warehouse in Brampton and their warehouses all around the world. It just makes sense that a portion of the way that we make things will change. We'll start doing it more locally. Yeah, I think we want to definitely be a big part of that. So whatever, in some capacity, hopefully it's with Mosaic. I hope that in the next 10 years we can make that a reality.
Yeah, and there's a lot of room to grow, as you said, and I'm very excited to see that change happen actually. But one of the main questions I'm actually really curious about, and I'm sure along with many of our listeners, A lot of us are graduating grade 12 students, like I said, and a lot of us are heading to an engineering program next year. And I've been playing around with CAD, specifically on Autodesk Inventor in my school's robotics team for quite a while. And I found that I really like the platform and the design and prototyping aspects of engineering a lot. And I also know that there has been a very, I guess, prominent focus on software development jobs and experiences in university in grade 12. And like that's kind of all we hear from my perspective, at least. But for everyone going into university who's looking to gain some more experiences in the design and prototyping aspect, do you have any advice for specific skills or projects or general tips to be able to find jobs and co-op positions in these areas?
Definitely. Yeah. And I think you already actually said the words effectively. And I think it's projects. I interview all the time, and, you know, it's awesome. In Canada, we have really strong education, and so many students graduate with, good grades. And I believe in good grades. I think it's important. Um, at the same time, something that really helps people stand out for good reason, is when they can bring a portfolio, or that might be a more sophisticated word than is necessary here. They can bring a project. They can say, "Hey, I'm applying. I'm applying for this software development role. I think it might be relevant. I want to show you this robot I built to water my plant, and check it out. I bought an Arduino, and I wrote some firmware, and there's a little sensor for the sun, and that's going to really stick with me, because I'm going to say, wait a second, that person did that in their spare time. That makes, like, they must really be passionate about this." And so, you know, it doesn't have to be everyone building a solar powered Arduino script, but I think, one piece of advice I have, and something that I wish I would have done more, and I tried, and I think I did enough of it, but, you know, think about what you're learning in school, and apply it outside. Be curious, take on projects. Like I answered your question before about how I got into 3D printing. It's because I saw that in class and I thought it was really awesome. And then I bought a printer, and then started that business. That all started because of that curiosity. In high school, I started like a little lawn care business because I was just curious. I wanted to see how I can help. And I think, there's opportunities all around us. Everyone's story will be different, but if you can kind of carve out a little bit of time to just try some stuff, I think it'll put you in a really good position. It'll help round out your set of experiences and your biases in the world. And, by the time you graduate, if you start that now in grade 12, when you graduate, your next step of education, you'll have a lot of things to point to. So in summary, there's two things, I guess. One is be curious, take on little side projects. That'll help maybe inspire things for you in the future. And number two, apply your work to specific projects in real life. And when you're interviewing for companies, the ability to demonstrate your CAD skills and your Arduino skills and your, prototyping skills, those are all embodied best by an actual project.
Right, for sure. And I think you answered this question a little bit already, but something that we like to end off a lot of our interviews with is, if you could give your high school self any advice, what would it be?
Yeah, I think I would remind myself that, you know, we look at people where they are at a certain point in their career. We might look at Elon Musk or other figures and say, "Wow, like that's crazy." But the truth is, we become those people one step at a time. And so I would remind myself to take some risk, take calculated risks, try some of these side projects, do that summer program to get into entrepreneurship. I would have told myself to join the robotics team like you're in. I actually didn't have one at my high school, but start one maybe. And I would definitely, I think that when I look back, in addition to the underlying education and investment in like post-secondary education, it's those extra little things that I layered on top of it that really helped build who I am today and put me in a position to, keep growing, which I really, really love and think would be amazing for everyone if they can navigate there.
I love that advice. And unfortunately, that brings us to the end of today's conversation. It was actually pretty quick and time went by so fast, but we learned not only about the awesome projects that Mosaic Manufacturing is working on, but also a lot about Mitch's journey building this company with his team. We also heard about the future of 3D printing and what to look out for, and received some notable advice for high school and university students that I personally hope to apply very soon. those projects are coming to life very soon.
Awesome.
And a huge thank you to Mitch for answering all of our questions. And Mitch, one final question is, do you have any final words of wisdom for young people who want to be entrepreneurs and lead the change to the future with innovation?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, you are in an amazing position, the time of your life, the time, it being 2021. Just to give you some context, I didn't know what the word entrepreneurship really meant until fourth year university. That's when I got started. But if you're thinking about this in grade 9, 10, 11, or 12, you're way ahead of the game. So, use the resources you have. Go on YouTube, learn about venture capitalists and business growth and these skills, like you mentioned, Binal, learning CAD. There's so many free resources that you can teach yourself these skills with. And so, yeah, I think just if act on your curiosity, leverage the resources you have out there. And like I said, if you're already thinking about this at this age, I can only imagine where you'll be by the time you were where I was when I first thought about it in fourth year university.
That's awesome. I'm definitely leaving this conversation more excited than I was before. And thank you
Good.
so much again, Mitch, for joining us today. And until next time, this has been all signing off for Youth Culture.